All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the WrestleGasm channel. This is the fourth episode of the GWA Global Wrestling Alliance series on Total Extreme Wrestling 2020. It is the third episode of Showcase on the USA Network. Really excited to get into that. We had a rough couple of first shows, I won't lie, but last week's episode was a little bit of an improvement because we got Vader in there. And he got us some pretty decent ratings, at least compared to the first week. We didn't use him in the first week because we just kind of wanted to gauge how much money we would be making each week. And it's not great. We're not making a whole lot of money. But I mentioned this on the last episode. We are going to be doing pay-per-views a bit more frequently. Originally, it was going to be like one every 2 months to keep them kind of sparingly. But we're going to make them once a month now so we can get some good pay-per-view revenue. But also something I forgot to say in the last episode, our pay-per-view contract has it so that we have to have a minimum of 9 pay-per-views that we air within the 9 months that we're with that broadcaster. So we kind of have to have once a month pay-per-views, probably even squeeze in like 3-week pay-per-views to hit the deadline, I guess. So that's coming real soon. We'll have an announcement about our first pay-per-view in the next episode. I probably shouldn't have said that because that's going to be like a thing in the show that they're going to announce. So I should have kept it a surprise, but you guys are with me on this, so you guys get to know. Now, anyone who's following the channel, you may have noticed that I have a very bad upload schedule. So it's been quite a while between when I recorded the last episode and when I recorded this one. So there was something I did last time that I don't remember why I did it. So basically, Showcase on the USA Network, our TV show, we tape it on Sundays and we air it on Fridays, right? And we can change the date that it's taped if we need to. Maybe some people are unavailable. And as you can see at the moment, we're taping this on a Monday, right? I set that up last time I played, which was quite a while ago. So then I loaded it up, ready to book this next episode. Even rewatched all the previous episodes just to jog my memory. We're here now and realized it's Monday. That's cool. Maybe people were unavailable on the Sunday, but I don't remember why. However, all these people are unavailable today, including the guy who brings in the ratings, Vader. He's gone. He's not available. So we can't continue our strat of using him for the points. Look at this. 76 for a segment. That was based on his menace. That is the best stat we've gotten on any segment so far. So Vader's not going to be on the show this week. It's very unfortunate. I did have plans for him, but we move. So I have booked a show this week, and I will also mention before we get into it, the TV show is an hour long. This week I've bumped it up to an hour and a half because I was like, I want to get more on this show. I'm kind of struggling to fit things in. So this episode is an hour and a half, but now that it's an hour and a half, I'm kind of struggling to fill it up, basically. The main thing because the idea I wanted was I want to put more people in this show. People who aren't really in storylines, maybe they get a match, maybe they get some TV time. That's the idea here. But now the problem I'm facing is I need to meet a certain criteria when it comes to segments versus matches. I need to have 60% matches. But I made all the storylines all the segments I wanted to do for the storylines. I was like, no, you need to make more. So I'm gonna say that we're gonna go back to an hour after this episode. And we'll just in canon we'll say that this is just a special 1.5 hour episode. Because why not? Just a special. Yes, we'll go back to an hour after this because I genuinely struggled. So it is what it is. I've booked the show. I'm pretty happy with it. Again, I don't think it'll do great ratings wise, but it certainly builds up stories, which I'm really happy about. And we'll talk about strategies for the rating stuff after the show because I do have an idea. So with that said, let's jump into it. All right, so we are back in a generic venue in Southwest as we have been all the other times. We start off with a pre-show bout, and just to remind you guys, pre-shows is where I kind of just trial some wrestlers that I don't usually use on TV. And I usually bring in local workers to job out. So in this case, a pre-show bout that had terrible wrestling and non-existent crowd heat, Raven defeated Aaron O'Grady in 10:03 by pinfall with an even flow DDT. Future of the Hardcore Championship division right there. 37 for Raven. So he's our roster member that we're trying to kind of get the feel for. And Aaron O'Grady, aka Crash Holly, gets a 40, which better than the roster member. So I might have to sign Aaron O'Grady. Yeah, 37, a little bit disappointed, but I think it's usable. I think if we use him the right way, we can boost him up. And he's definitely going to be a stable guy, I feel like. We've got Gangrel, we've got Sinister Minister. There's plenty we can do. In a terrible pre-show match, Honky Tonk Man defeated Navajo Warrior in 9:27 by pinfall with a shake, rattle, and roll. Now this, yes, I will admit, is a very interesting matchup. But again, Navajo Warrior was just a jobber that we brought in, and Honky Tonk Man we haven't used yet, so I kind of wanted to see his rating. 48's not a bad rating. Like, it's better than a fair few members of the roster, but he might be more of a segment-based guy. Yeah, 28, we're definitely not signing Navajo Warrior. But in the final pre-show bout, didn't have much heat and terrible wrestling. Boris Zukov and Ivan Koloff defeated Dynamite D and Jay Smooth in 10 minutes 40 when Boris Zukov pinned Dynamite D with a diving headbutt. Dynamite D was the weak link. Another terrible match. Look, it's pre-shows, so I'm cool with that. Obviously, Dynamite D and Jay Smooth were the jobbers in this. The reason I wanted to team up Zukov and Koloff, if it wasn't obvious by who they are, I want to see if they would function well as a team, right? I said last time that Ivan Koloff is going to be with Nikit Koloff, and they're going to be a tag team. So I wanted to see if I could throw in Boris Zukov and make kind of a faction out of it, because I have Boris Zukov on the roster already. So it would be weird to have like an evil Russian singles wrestler and then an evil Russian tag team. Why not just throw them together? So, they didn't have good chemistry, but they also didn't have bad chemistry. So I think I will make a stable out of it. But we move on to the televised portion of the card. In a decent match, Terry Gordy defeated Hector Guerrero in 9:26 by pinfall with a running leg drop. Now this I'm happy with. Decent match, that's good. Now, some of you guys might be thinking, usually wrestling TV shows start off with a big segment to set up some of the stories that will be showcased throughout the episode or to set up the main event. And to be honest with you, I do have a segment like that, but it's a backstage segment. And I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I feel like a backstage segment to open up the show just kind of feels weird. I would rather have a match. So Terry Gordy, Hector Guerrero, can't even speak, Hector Guerrero, there we go. None of these guys have debuted yet, for GWA, of course. So why not? Why not? Remember the Guerrero family, one of the Freebirds. Perfect. 63's very good. So backstage, and just a little recap. Last week, Tully Blanchard and Paul Ellering said they're putting together a little group of people who they think can benefit from working together. And the New Breed, the tag team of Chris Champion and Sean Royal, got their second consecutive win against the United States Tag Team Champions, the Southern Boys. And then Tully Blanchard and Paul Ellering basically came out on stage and let it be known that, we're interested. So in this segment, Tully Blanchard and Paul Ellering, they meet with the New Breed backstage, and they say, or Paul Ellering says, that they've been very impressed over the past few weeks because of all these wins, beating the Southern Boys, beating the Fantastics 2 weeks ago. And then Tully says that they have a bright future, the New Breed. Genuinely could be the best tag team in the industry. Admittedly, if we're being honest, their ratings have been kind of disappointing. But in the story, in the segment, he says they could be one of the best tag teams in the world. And he'd love to help guide them to reach that status. And do it as part of his new alliance. So if Champion and Royal are up to it, Tully has arranged a 6-man tag team match in tonight's main event, just so that Tully and Ellering can kind of, understand what they're working with here. Now, I know trios matches, 6-man tag team matches, they weren't overly common at this time. There was still quite a lot of them in like WCW and whatnot. But one thing I want to do with GWA is bring in a lot of international flavor. So that includes like trios matches, like triple threat matches, which at this time weren't very big in like the larger American promotions. It wasn't really until, I can't really think of any major triple threat matches in WWE until the Attitude Era, right? So we're gonna try and do that. I know 6-man tag is a little bit more tame because like I remember seeing WCW with a 6-man tag title and stuff like that. So just that general kind of stuff, Anyways, Chris Champion and Sean Royal, they respond by saying that the New Breed are very capable of getting to that status, being one of the greatest tag teams on their own. But they do believe, and again, I changed the phrasing of this, but it stayed there. They do believe that by aligning themselves with Tully Blanchard and Paul Ellering, they can kind of streamline that process and they can get there a lot faster. So they think they can do it themselves, but it would be faster with Tully and Ellering. So tonight, Tully Blanchard and the New Breed, who have accepted their invitation, will face the Rock and Roll Express, who will be making their televised debut for GWA, and a partner to be chosen by the GWA Board of Directors. So there you go. We have our main event match set for tonight, and there was a lot of back and forth on what the main event would be, and I'll explain what that is when we get to it. But that was a 60 rated segment, so I'm pretty happy with that. Anyways, we have a bout that had a decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling. The Samoan SWAT team defeated Kevin and Lance Von Erich in 9:42, when Fatu pinned Kevin Von Erich with a double diving headbutt. A decent reaction from the crowd, subpar wrestling. I can work with that. That's pretty good. Lance Von Erich was the worst performance out of the match, but to be honest, I could have guessed that. He is the fake Von Erich. But yeah, that was the GWA debut of the Von Erichs, and it was I think it was the televised debut of the Samoan SWAT team for GWA as well. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Again, this was one of those matches that I wanted to make it an hour and a half long for, just so we could get people who wouldn't normally be on TV the chance to be on TV, So there's that one. We move backstage again. Lou Albano, and just a refresher course, Buddy Landel has been desperately trying to become Lou Albano's new client. And last week he issued an open challenge to prove that he is worthy of it, but it was answered by Vader, who basically kicked his ass. But this time, Buddy Landel, he finds Lou Albano, and he basically, begs him for another opportunity. And Albano says, your opportunity is come and gone. Vader is the kind of guy that I want to be managing, not you. And Landel's like, how could I have known that Vader would have been here? And Albano's like, well, I want to work with the best. And if you think you're only the best when the actual best aren't here to rival you, then that's not you. So Albano walks off. He's like, you've wasted my time for 2 weeks now. And then Landel is pissed. He's furious. He is throwing stuff around the backstage area. And he says he will make this right. And he has a plan. And we'll see what that plan is later on tonight. Now we have Austin Idol and Scott Armstrong. They enter and they stop by the Chris Cruz corner. And Idol says that for every day of the past week, he has been training Scott Armstrong. He's been teaching him the fighting style, the tactics, everything he knows about Jerry the King Lawler, so that when it comes time for Armstrong to fight Lawler again, have the rematch, he'll be ready. And Austin Idol says that Armstrong pretty much is ready, but he needs to prove it right now in a match. He's going to be taking on Tom Pritchard, the Doctor. So it gets a 38, which is actually really disappointing. I based that on Idol and Cruz's microphone stats, which they're pretty good at. They're not exceptional, but they're pretty good. So I would have hoped for better. Unless maybe I accidentally picked the wrong roles. I don't know, but 38's not great. We move into the actual match. In a poor match, Tom Pritchard defeated Scott Armstrong in 9:45 by pinfall with a super kick following interference from Jerry the King Lawler. That gets a 56, which I would have thought was okay, but apparently it's a poor match. Armstrong with a 41, Pritchard with a 54. I knew Pritchard would be a little bit of a standout. I think if we put him in a better match, he'll definitely have a better performance. I think he could be in the 60s as an average. As you can see, Bruce Pritchard was there as well. He's being his manager. I would have given them a segment, but maybe another time. Confusingly, Scott Armstrong and Austin Idol are on different sides of the face heel divide. I'll admit, that was just kind of an oversight on my part. I'm guessing I signed Austin Idol as a heel before I made the storyline plans, and then just didn't think to change it. So that's my bad. I think the only way I can really counter this is maybe if I still have Idol be Armstrong's trainer in the story. He's just not manager, so it doesn't like bring down the match rating. That's all I can really think of to do, because I don't want to change him just because they'd be like, oh, you've turned him face too soon. But maybe we won't have a choice. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do I just take him off as manager, or do I change him to face despite the consequences of it? Anyways, there's that match. One thing I haven't even mentioned, I mean, I read it out, but I didn't really talk about it, is following interference from Jerry Lawler. Jerry the King Lawler came in and he basically cost Scott Armstrong the match. He knows what Idol's trying to do here, and he's not going to let it happen. So after the match, Jerry Lawler, he's just cost Scott Armstrong the match, and Austin Idol basically scares him off. Scares him off and makes him run, and Jerry escapes to the Chris Cruz corner where he takes a mic and he says, Austin Idol, you can train Scott Armstrong all you want. It won't make a difference, because when they get their rematch, which Jerry is open to having, he will put Scott Armstrong to shame, just like he did last time. So Jerry Lawler basically saying, rematch is on the cards, and we'll be seeing that hopefully pretty soon. But a 66, that's all we want. That's kind of why Jerry Lawler is here for this segment. We need his mic stats. He's the best talker in GWA, so we need those kind of ratings. The only reason, even though he's the best talker, the only reason that segment doesn't get as high as like a Vader segment is because Vader has 100 in Menace, and Jerry, while he is the best talker, he doesn't have 100 on mic, so it's a little bit of a gap, but that's fine. Buddy Landel, he storms out to the ring. He's still absolutely fuming at everything that just happened with Albano, the fact that he had to fight Vader. And he says that it doesn't matter whether Lou Albano wants to give him another chance or not. He doesn't care about that anymore. What he wants to do is fix last week's fuck up, basically. He wants to right the wrongs of last week. And so he issues another challenge for right here and right now, and anyone except for Vader can answer the challenge. You would have thought Buddy Landel would have learned his lesson by now, but he clearly didn't, because he's so just kind of blinded by his rage that he doesn't think of who else could possibly answer the challenge. And in this case, it's none other than the World Championship Wrestling Light Heavyweight Champion, New Japan star, Jushin Thunder Liger. He's making his GWA debut, and I'll be honest, I would have much rather debuted him in a larger scope, put him on a pay-per-view, give him a massive match. But as we discussed earlier with Vader, we need the ratings, basically. We need those points. And if you go to the creative meeting, and I think it was like Showstoppers and possibly Ring Generals as well, Jushin Thunder Liger is number one. He is the best in-ring talent we have, so I'm hoping he can pull out a banger of a match. And before we go into the match, I will also say, I mentioned before there were two options for main event. This was the other one, and it was purely based on Jushin Thunder Liger being like such a high-stated wrestler. But I went with the one that made more storyline sense. So, fingers crossed. Let's hope this does well. That is pretty good. Not like anything exceptional, but it's pretty good. In a decent match, Jushin Thunder Liger defeated Buddy Landel in 12 minutes and 2 seconds by pinfall with a Liger suplex. A 71 from Jushin Thunder Liger is fantastic. I think Vader's the only one who has outdone that. Maybe they're tied. I don't know the numbers specifically. But a 67 is pretty good. That I think that is our highest rated match. We'll double check, but I think it is. And Buddy Landel is getting better at his gimmicks, so that's awesome. You'd love to see it. But yeah, Jushin Thunder Liger is here. Yeah, I am happy with that. I'm going to try and book Jushin Liger semi-frequently because I want him to be a persistent member of the roster. We'll see how it goes. Now we have Bob Backlund, who wasn't on the show last week. He was on the week before, where he lost to Tully Blanchard after Paul Ellering, helped Tully. But Bob Backlund arrives and he goes to the Chris Cruz corner, has a chat with him, has an interview with him, and he basically says, "Tonight I will be the tag team partner of Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, with tonight's 6-man tag team main event." Now, initially, the crowd are like, they're not booed because they don't hate Bob Backlund, but they're just disappointed, basically. And it's going back to this thing from 2 weeks ago where Bob Backlund is, he is one of the greatest world champions of all time, but he's kind of a relic in the industry. And there's no appeal for him anymore, right? So Backlund kind of acknowledges their disinterest in him, and he says that you guys have every right to doubt me, just as I have every right to prove myself. So he will be in the main event match tonight. He will use it as a proving point, and he won't let his loss to Tully Blanchard 2 weeks ago define his career in GWA. And he's also looking for some redemption for Paul Ellering being the wild card in that match. But Bob Backlund doing a masterful job of improvising a reaction from the crowd, that is actually kind of perfect, because I did kind of have in mind as I was writing this that he kind of goes off script when he talks about, when he acknowledges the crowd being disinterested in him. I was just kind of envisioning it as I was writing it that he was going off script at that point. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but the fact that he improvised, maybe my headcanon is correct then. Maybe he didn't follow the script and he was like, you know what? I know you guys don't like me that much, but this is my chance to prove myself. And that chance starts right now in the main event. In a decent match, Tully Blanchard and the New Breed defeated Bob Backlund and the Rock and Roll Express in 12 minutes, 21 seconds. Chris Champion pinned Robert Gibson while using the ropes for leverage. I don't know if that's the finish that I actually gave it, but it is one that I will work with. I think that is good because it's a cheap win, and for these guys, it works. A 59, I was hoping for better, but yeah, I was hoping for better, basically. So if we have a look, 40 and 39 for the New Breed. They're actually improving. That's really cool that they're improving. Tully Blanchard with a 69, Bob Backlund also with a 69. Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton with 55 and 57. They did pretty well. This is not their GWA debut, but it is their televised GWA debut. They had a pre-show match, I'm fairly certain. Yeah, look, I'm happy with it, but was hoping for a bit better. Tully Blanchard and Paul Ellering have excellent chemistry together. That's perfect. This is Paul Ellering's first time officially managing Tully Blanchard in the match. And Tully and Ricky are getting better at their gimmicks. Well, there you go. It was too short of a match. Okay, I should have made it a bit longer for the main event. Okay, we're going to click finish show in a second. But before we do that, we've got to keep in mind episode 1 was a 55 rating, episode 2 was a 59. Now, considering the main event here is a 59, I don't think we're going to top it. I don't think we're going to top it. Holy shit, we did. I don't know how. I really don't know how. But I will happily take it. We didn't gain any popularity. We didn't lose any either, and that is great because the first 2 shows we did. We lost popularity in all of the US regions. And I don't think we lost any in Canada, but you know, it is what it is. 61. I am actually really happy with that. I didn't expect it. All right, here we go. So, GWA Showcase 3. Show was good, although some found it underwhelming. Okay, that's the same notes we've been given before, so that's fine. Barry Lawler says, Lance Von Erich needs to learn how to sell. Lance Von Erich is a little bit shit. Scott Armstrong is fatigued, as is Hector Guerrero. Fair enough. Yeah, look, I'm happy with that. So where did that Jushin Liger match fall? That is our best. Okay, well, that would be why. That was our best match by like 6 points. Because if we have a look, Showstopper, number 1, there you go. Ring General, number 3. Brilliant stuff. We aren't doing great financially, though. That is a bit of a bummer. I mentioned earlier about how we're going to get around the ratings, and it's a pretty simple solution. Something we're going to have to do is just sign some big name talent, right? I said in the very first episode of this series that I didn't really want to sign guys who were WCW or WWF. I kind of wanted to differentiate and make a unique GWA roster, but we don't really have a choice with the kind of ratings we've been getting. So I'm gonna have a look. I'm not going to sign anyone now on the episode because I want it to be a surprise for you guys. But we will just have a look and see who's available to steal from WWF. And it's not a lot of people. It's mostly jobbers. Jimmy Snuka, there's potential there. Tito Santana, maybe. WCW, how are we looking there? I am not signing Abdullah the Butcher, no thank you. Brad Armstrong, we've got the other 3 Armstrongs, although Scott's leaving, so... Magnum TA could be fun. He's retired at this point. Ooh, Ricky Steamboat. You know what? As much as I love Ricky Steamboat, he is an exclusive handshake, and that's not enough to deter me. What is the fact that he is loyal to WCW, so he wouldn't accept anything. But we are going to shortlist him. Because, I mean, it's Ricky Steamboat. Why wouldn't you? Okay, there's some options. There's definitely some options. I will have a look around after the episode and see what big names I can bring in. Also going to have a look at the schedule and see kind of why we butchered it with Vader being unavailable. But if you guys have any suggestions for people I should sign in 1992, by all means let me know. I will happily take suggestions. Here's what the company was looking like. If maybe by looking at a company you can remember some of their roster members, maybe that'll be a way to spark some ideas. But yeah, with that said, thank you guys very much for joining me today. I do really appreciate it. Hopefully I can be a bit more consistent with the episodes, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes because I don't really trust myself with consistency. So yeah, like I said, thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.